wants to show everybody where he belongs, as far as coming out next year and, being a top guy, which all along I've felt he is. And, he's not just there for himself. I think he's obviously there for, the teammates and the team and obviously the fans to try and even take this to the next step, especially the way they finished.
South Carolina fans breathed a huge sigh of relief when they received confirmation that Spencer Rattler would indeed be coming back for a second season as quarterback of the Gamecock football program. The strong finish Rattler had to the 2022 campaign showed the skills that he has displayed not just on the college level, but for years prior. No one knows that better than Mike Giovando, Rattler's personal quarterback coach for the past decade. I'm Derek Scott, and this is Gamecock Talk. If every great athlete wishes they were a rock star and every musician wishes they could dunk, Mike Giovando is the rare bird who could speak to both sides. A college quarterback who also played and sang in a rock band, he oozes West Coast cool. But Giovando's passion for teaching the most important position on the football field is unmistakable, as is his enthusiasm about his star pupil. He tells us where he thinks Spencer can improve in year 2 in Columbia, why he thinks Rattler can be a legit Heisman candidate in 2023, and lots more on this edition of Gamecock Talk. Mike Giovando is a quarterback coach, but he's more than that. He's a guy who, from our perspective, has a familiarity with Spencer Rattler that not many can speak to. Gio, as everybody calls you that, Coach Gio, tell us a little bit about how long you've been working with Spencer on quarterback skills.
Over 10 years now, at least. Met him when he was a youngster, probably 5th or 6th grade. Was told about him by a guy that I knew, a mutual friend, and Spencer still knows this guy as well. His name's Bill Fatoros, but Bill had told me probably when Spencer was in about 5th or 6th grade about this young quarterback that was very talented, and he coached in that youth organization that Spencer played in, and said, "Hey, why don't you come watch him play?" So I came and watched him play, and probably within about 5-6 minutes, I'm like, yeah, this guy's a pretty good little guy, man. He's got some poise and some moxie, and he's got a live arm, and he's just really, he's just head and shoulders better than everybody on the field at that point in time, even. And was introduced to his dad, and probably within 2 weeks, was seeing him on a regular basis, just constantly for up until now. So it really hasn't stopped. But that's kind of how I was introduced to him. And I always thought, yeah, this little guy's going to be something else. And then, yeah, he ended up being really good, obviously. And he's doing great things right now.
I know you've been doing this quarterback thing for probably 25 years now. So it wasn't like it was new to you at that point. But my question is, do you typically, with the kids you work with, do they usually come to you that early, or was that a little unique?
I have a kid that just played on ESPN in the flag tournament or something. He's 7 years old. I just watched it this weekend, and he was lighting it up. And I was like, his dad's texting me, it was on, it was a little, and this little kid, but I think Spencer, around the time of Spencer, when I started working with him, that had probably been around 2012. That was pretty much about it. Maybe 10 years old, about the youngest that I went, and he was probably 12. And now, I have 6-7-year-olds that, everybody's kind of, hey, will you do it? And you know what? Yeah, we work with them, at a young age. And some of them, end up having, man, it's amazing how good some of these young kids are, and how coachable they actually are. That's what always worries me is, first, when they're that young, can they pay attention? And second, are we just going to sit here and babysit? Or are they actually going to be able to, to participate? So we've been fortunate with the guys we train, that even the young guys, they really want to be there and work hard at it. So, but Spence at that time was probably about the average age that we would start guys, 5th, 6th grade.
You mentioned already a couple things that were, about him that caught your eye that first day, but what stands out to you about, someone in his shoes at that age? What really stood out to make you think, okay, that this is worth my time, this is worth his time, and there is some very bright future prospects here?
Just right off the bat, how well he could throw the football, like the kind of accuracy and command of the ball that he had at a young age. Like he could put it wherever he wanted, like he really understood, timing and anticipation. I thought, could deliver footballs at ease, and that was the first thing that jumped out to me. And then the second thing was, just how poised he was and calm he was as a young guy. You know, standing in the pocket. You don't really see back, 10 years ago, you didn't see a lot of fifth and sixth graders standing in the pocket and throwing the ball. I mean, I always equivalent, little league football to like lunch recess, guys running around and, and making plays and, there's no blocking and you know what I'm saying? And
yep.
He actually was in the pocket and playing within the pocket and delivering footballs and making throws. I was like, it's pretty impressive for a young cat to have that kind of, poise.
Ready.
His, I guess you would say, process that's gotten him to where he is now. Obviously, there's a lot of steps in that evolution. How often do you still spend time with him, or even evaluating what you're seeing on film, and what's the connection? What's the relationship?
Whenever he's here, we're working. Whenever he's here, I mean, we're 3 days a week on the field. We talk shop, talk ball a lot. Talk about concepts and I watch every game. I have a few guys playing. I try to catch all their games. If I can't watch them, I tape them, and then I'll watch every snap. And I'll talk to him afterwards. I'll have a brief, kind of almost like a brief overview of what I saw that was, positive, and maybe some things that could be, corrected here and there, make little tiny corrections that, hey, maybe we could have stepped up here. Maybe we could have got the ball out a little quicker, and just giving him some, some of my thoughts, and what he sees. And most of the time he'll come right back to me and go, yeah, I agree. I see what you're saying. And, yeah, I'm going to work on that this week. And, so I spend a lot of time with them when they're down here. Obviously I probably won't see them again till March. Then I'll see him all of May. And then, I might come up for spring ball for a few days. I'm trying to get out there this year. I want to meet the new offensive coordinator. I've talked with him on the phone a little bit, like him. And I just want to come out and, see what they're doing and, see what direction that they're going. And then, I talk to these guys, usually try to reach out to my quarterbacks once a week, get them on the phone. Guys like to text more than they do talk these days, but these guys, we'll get on the phone and we'll chop it up, a little bit. And of course, this year, just this last couple months, there's been a lot more communication, just trying to figure out what was going to be the best move, after the season, and talking with mom and dad and talking with some other people that are associated with us, as far as trying to make the right choice for this upcoming, decision that he had to make, before the, declaring or anything like that. So a lot of conversations with, with him and his family over the last couple months. And then we talked to him last Saturday. Like I said, we just catch up, talk, see how things are going. So yeah, I'm in constant communication with the guys and him as well. Obviously him, also along with some of the other quarterbacks that we have.
As you can imagine, Gamecock fans were hanging on the edge throughout the holidays, wanting to know
I bet.
what the decision would be. Is he coming back to play for the Garnet and Black again, or is he ready to pursue an NFL career? Obviously, you're involved in that conversation and that evaluation. What were those steps like? What can you share about that process? And have you, I assume at this point, you've had to assist others in that process too.
Yeah,
so you had some
I had a
experience.
quarterback, Jack Plummer, that was at Cal this year and had a good year and was deciding whether he was going to, come out or stay for a sixth. And Coach Brom at Louisville, at Purdue, who he originally played for, went to Louisville and gave Jack another opportunity to maybe come play a sixth year. And so a lot of communication with Jack this year, Jack and Spence, about the next move, and both of them decided to stay. And I think it was a great move, obviously for Spencer, because I do think it's going to help. One more year of cleaning up just some little things here and there. And obviously I think he could be a first round pick, no problem, in my opinion. And I think he could be a Heisman candidate again this year as well. I wouldn't expect anything less. I don't think he does either. I think he thinks he can, should have that opportunity to do that again. And, I think he just wants to show everybody where he belongs, as far as coming out next year and, being a top guy, which all along I've felt he is. And, playing one more year and showing everybody, like, hey, look, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to come back here and put on a show for you guys again. We're going to win some more football games than we did last year. I know he's all about improving from last year's record. They wants to maybe play for the conference championship next year and compete. So, he's not just there for himself. I think he's obviously there for, the teammates and the team, and obviously the fans to try and even take this to the next step, especially where they finished,
You bring that up, and I think that's something worth mentioning, is that in the era of the transfer portal and with the quarterback position having so much spotlight put on it, so than ever before, that's something that is not to be taken for granted, that a young man comes in a situation like he came in here and immediately adopted this team and became a big part of the program, and not just here to pass through and play quarterback for a year.
Right. And that was kind of one thing that I think he showed everybody, that people that were, had preconceptions or, misinformation about, what kind of young man he was. I think he showed everybody that he's a team first guy. He's a leader. He's a captain. You know what I mean? He cares about the people around him. He's not about himself at all. There was a stretch there where you guys are putting up 100 points against South Carolina State and some other team. Maybe it was Georgia State. I don't know. And he had thrown like 2 touchdowns and you guys scored 100 points. And me as a quarterback, I'm like, man, we should have 10 touchdowns against these two teams. You know what I'm saying? And that didn't matter. He just went about his business, won the games, got the W's. I'm sure he would have loved to put up more touchdown passes than this and that. But, I think there would have been a lot of other guys that would have been complaining that they didn't, have their stats were, a little bit more, on the upside against a couple games like that. And I would call him and he would say, yeah, we had to get the run game going. We got to get things going, try to get things rolling in the right direction. And he was always never negative, never, you know what I mean? Just going along with what had to be done to get this thing going in the right direction. And I really feel like it probably was, obviously those last 2 games that you guys played, that I kind of felt like, all right, now everybody's kind of comfortable. They kind of know what they're good at. And they're going to let Spencer be Spencer a little bit more, which I don't think they, did at first there, or didn't quite know. You're trying to figure everybody out. You're trying to figure these new receivers out. You're trying to figure out the run. I get it. I'm never going to knock. I coached junior college football my whole life, pretty much. And that's kind of what college football has turned into now, because we got kids for 6 months. That's all we had them for. And now, instead of having kids in the program, for 3 years, and you know what I mean? There's an established system, and this is the way you do things. Man, you're taking these guys and you're trying to get them to know each other, like each other, play for each other, within a 6-month period and get things figured out. And, that's how I kind of, look at this year for him. I was like, man, once they kind of figured out the parts and got it rolling, you know what I mean? It was kind of, now we're good, and they started cooking, obviously, and making some things happen. I mean, I think if they would have played Georgia at the end of the year, they would have given them, a really good game, rather than with, playing them in the third game when they were trying to figure out the parts and, you know what I mean? And this and that. And I so it's something to be said for that, like you said,
I think that's a great comp though between the long-term view of JUCO ball and
It
where
is.
D1 football is right now with the portal. There's no
Welcome to
doubt
my
about it.
world, guys. Yeah. The problem is they get paid a lot more than we did, to put up with it. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's kind of what it's turned into. You know what I mean? It's crazy. So I think this year, obviously, it's going to be a bunch of new faces for you guys as well. Some new guys coming in and but I think having a guy like Spencer there that's been through it already, that's gonna make it easier this year for Coach Beamer and everybody else because you got your quarterback.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got your guy, you got your leader, you got your guy that can, get everybody where they need to be. Obviously a new offensive coordinator, but I think, that guy's a stud. I've spoken with him and nothing but compliments about him from different guys that I know. And so I think that's going to also be a nice little, compliment to each other. He's got a guy that's already been here and, in Spencer. And I feel like they'll kind of sit down and, chop it up and figure out what's best, what he does best and what coach likes to do best. And they'll make it work real fast, in my opinion.
Tell me a little bit. You mentioned those last two games, that Tennessee game and that Clemson game, and how big of a step forward that was in terms of his comfortability, his productivity. And when you saw those games, you said you watched film. Was there anything in particular that stood out to you about what was allowing him to produce the way he was against those two squads, as talented as they both are?
Yeah. In my opinion, I think they were trying to do. I honestly think there was a lot of personnel groupings, in the previous games, and trying to figure out, do we want to run the ball? We're going to throw. I felt like they just kind of shortened up the playbook. To be honest with you, got a few formations rather than like 85 formations, and you know what I mean, and just kind of tightened it up and said, hey, you know what? This is what we're best at, right? These are the guys that are going to make the plays for us. This is the best formations for us to do it out of. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Keeping Spencer out of 3rd and 9 and 3rd and 12. I mean, there was too many games where you can point the finger at the quarterback, but when it's 3rd and 9, 3rd and 12, I don't care who you are. It's not a very a good recipe for success. And I thought the last two games, there wasn't a lot of those situations. You know what I mean? We were in front of the sticks. And a couple times that we got behind the sticks, I mean, he made some big plays and some big throws, you know what I mean, to keep the chains moving and alive. And I just felt like that was kind of more, they kind of figured out what their identity was a little bit more, and to me, as I watched it. And, Spence moved around, got out of the pocket. They had some movement plays for him to where he would act, designed rollout, design stuff. And when he gets outside there and can set his feet and rip it, or even when he's improvising, he's as good as anybody, as good as he is, and he's just as good from the pocket too. If you can give him a clean pocket, he's gonna murder you in there. So that's what I saw. I mean, if that makes any sense. I mean, I really felt like things had gotten a little bit simpler, if that makes any sense. And they just stuck to what, they could get, that they could be really, really good at. And I think for the first 8 or 9 games, they were trying to figure that out. You know what I mean? And I know Coach Beamer wanted to run the ball, and that's why there was a few games there where you saw them hammering the run game and stuff like that. And then, it just felt like a couple of games there. The Florida game just seemed like a mess. I couldn't figure that game out. I was watching that. We got no possessions, hardly. They've run 70 plays. We've ran 20. Yeah, I was just out of sorts. You know what I mean? And I felt like we were a better team than them. If I told Spencer this, I said, I thought you guys could win at least 9 games this year, and I was close. But I honestly thought 2 of the wins might not come against Clemson and Tennessee. I thought that might be Georgia and Missouri. I mean, Missouri and Florida for sure that we should have won. And we should have won those games. And we're looking at what, 10-2 at that point? You know what I mean? And probably if we play Arkansas later in the year, we probably beat them. You know what I mean? So you're looking at a team that probably could, once they would have got it figured out, they were a 10-win potential team last year, in my opinion. We'll take 8, right? But we're right there. That's why I don't think 10 is out of the question next year. You know what I mean? Maybe 11. Who knows? Maybe, they can win the whole thing. I don't know, but that's how I feel.
You mentioned him getting outside the pocket and how dangerous he can be in that setting. When did you start working with him on that part of the game? Because as you mentioned, when you first met him, kid stood out to you because in the pocket, he had an ability to deliver the ball, unlike most youngsters at that age. When did that become apparent that his athleticism allowed him to throw well?
So look, most kids run out of the pocket anyway, right? So when he was he could get out of the pocket and make uncanny, great accurate throws. So the reason I say the pocket thing surprised me because most kids at that age don't want to play in the pocket. You know what I'm saying? And he could play in it. But I knew right away, like, yeah, he can get out on the run, and you know what I mean, and he could throw the ball anywhere. That was something that I think, obviously he had, from the jump. And we just continued to work on it. We work on that stuff all the time. Like all the time. It's always off balance foot. We work off balance throws. We work, movement, stepping up, getting out. We work all kinds of situational, you know, throw. I mean, situations that could come up in the pocket that force you to kind of, get out and move and throw. And, he's still, out of all the guys that come out here, he's top. He's the top at that stuff. I mean, he's fluid. It's just a natural. It's really fun to watch, and he doesn't have to work at it as hard as the other guys, but that doesn't mean we don't work at it. It's a little more natural to him, but we still work at it. So I knew right away. I'm like, yeah, he's going to have all the throws. Back then you're just hoping they get to be 6'1" or 6'2" when they're little. You know what I'm saying? You're just hoping that they can check off those boxes because you know how that goes with coaches. And of course that happened down the road. He got bigger and stronger and all that. But the throwing stuff was all I said. All I wanted to do was just give him every tool he could to even be better than he already was. You know what I mean? And continue to challenge him. I made him throw with the older guys when he was young. He's probably in 6th grade, 7th grade. I said, no, you're coming up with the high school group now. You're done messing around there because, there's no challenge for you here. I'm not going to get you any better keeping you with guys that are better, that you're way better than. You know what I mean? And so it was like put him around older guys, college guys, whoever it was, and go out and, and it didn't bother. He went out and hung in there and sometimes was better than a lot of those guys. You know what I'm saying? And to this day, he'll come out and train with us, and we'll have younger kids that we come up and throw with him. He gets it. That doesn't bother him. He's like, yeah, I was right there where that guy was. It's good to be able to have the young guys around us so they can see what it's, where we got to go, where they got to go and what they got to do. So I'm always trying to find ways to challenge him. You know what I mean? And that's why when he's down here, he's throwing with another 15, 20 Division I quarterbacks that we have. So he's always around, you know what I'm saying? Really good throwers. You know what I mean? So he's always around those guys, and that keeps you sharp. You know what I mean? And they love to compete against each other when we're training. They love to match each other throw and talk and, have some fun. And so it's, man, all I'm doing is organizing throwing at that point. I'm just organizing it. They're just out there doing the work. You know what I mean? So, knew right away as a young guy that, he could do everything,
As you said, you've got 15 to 20 D1 guys, but this is a different set of rules when he comes east to deal with SEC defenses and SEC athletes. How entertaining was it for you to see one of your guys working against that skill level?
That was awesome, man. I mean, it was fun to see, him be challenged, right? A little bit more than maybe he would have been, in a different conference. And not to knock on any of the conferences, I mean, obviously there's good players in every single conference, but obviously the SEC is, the cream of the crop. Georgia won it again, right? So, and they beat the living daylights out of the Big 12 and wasn't even close. And so, to see him perform, against the best and make throws. I mean, there were some throws in the Tennessee game and even in that Clemson game where he was just putting it in spots. Defenders were right there. And was going right over their heads. And a lot of these guys made some great catches for him too, but that's expected. You know what I mean? Like if you want to play receiver, you better be able to make some tough contested catches. I've always told Spencer, I said the DB can't cover what he can't see. And I said, especially when you get to that next level, you're going to have to be throwing at guys' heads when their backs turned. I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. And you got to be able to, anticipate those throws. And I saw a lot of that this year. I saw him having to do a little bit more of that. You know what I mean? Like throwing it a little bit sooner or you know what I mean? Like a little bit tighter windows than he might have previously had to go against. And, but we've always talked about that. We've always talked about, when to throw the football and guys' backs turned, man, get the ball out of your hand now. We always work on those little details about, being able to anticipate and get the ball out before the defense has a chance to react. You know what I mean?
It is, I think we're all intrigued to see what and where this program goes this next year, and certainly what and where his career path goes, because the quarterback position, just watching what's coming up this weekend in the NFL playoffs, it's all about who's got the elite QBs. And I bring that up only from the standpoint of you played the position, you coached the position, you have a quarterback academy. It is, I think, amazing to look and see how much a sport that we all thought was run by quarterbacks is now really, really run by that position, making or breaking programs for the most part.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you don't have a good quarterback, you're not going to be, good luck, right? I mean, really, I was in high school in the 80s and we ran the wing T, right? We were lucky to throw it 12, 13 times a game, right? So it was all, back in the 80s, it was running backs. It was Herschel Walker. It was, Bo Jackson. It was, you know what I mean? The list, we can go on and on about these guys, you know what I mean? The Barry Sanders and, you know what I mean? We can just go on and on about the running backs that ruled that time, Oklahoma, Nebraska, that was the game. The quarterback, a lot of those programs was a running back that could, that could maybe throw occasionally when he needed to. I mean, you had your Dan Marinos, and of course those were elite but they were few and far between. You had, you know what I mean? Like, your Elways and Marinos, and those were elite guys. Now I think now the quarterback position is, like you said, I mean, I have a deal where I train close to 100 plus guys a week. You know what I mean? From all ages. We just did a winter camp here 2 weeks ago, and we had 260 quarterbacks come from 30 states. Just a little old Arizona to do, the Elevate QB Academy, it's grown from 5 years ago. There were 100 kids that came to that camp. Now there was 260 this year. So a lot of that helps too when you have guys like Spence and other guys that are, out there showcasing their skills, and these kids can go, oh, you trained with Coach Gio, let's go and find out what they do. And, but so credit to our guys playing well, helping us get, even more of an audience out here. But yeah, I mean, you look at the games this week. If think about it, if Mahomes isn't healthy and can do everything he can do, that's going to, it's going to be tough, right? I mean, you got Burrow on the other side, who's, kind of the next kind of Tom Brady to me. He just kind of has that same kind of moxie and coolness to his game. And then, Jalen, obviously, and then Brock's doing a good job, obviously, for the 49ers with what they do. But yeah, it's all good quarterbacks that, that get you to the promised land in the end, for the most part. I mean, it's usually that case, right? Obviously we were missing Rodgers in the playoff this year, but usually those top quarterbacks are always there with their teams. So it is a quarterback driven deal. And even in college football, right? I mean, look at these quarterbacks and the numbers they're putting up, and their team's success based on how well they go, and it's fun to watch. It's cool to see.